Over the years, our family's had its share of health problems.
So prescriptions are a part of our life.
Before we went to the big box store.
We both thought it would help us save. But with the long lines and impersonal service, filling prescriptions became a chore. That's when a friend recommended D&H.
Now Tristan knows our prescriptions. Brenda always helps us find the right vitamins. And after Dad's fall, Monica's been a real expert with all our home medical needs. All without the lines.
Trust and service.
That's our D&H.
Good morning and welcome to Radio Friends. It's Thursday, September the 25th, and we have singer, storyteller, all-around nice guy, Larry Brown with us. Good to have you here, Larry Brown.
Good morning.
Yeah.
Morning.
So we've got a story today, right?
Well, we do have a story.
Yeah. Now you were on Labor Day.
Yes.
And you kind of left us with a cliffhanger of that story.
Yes, I did.
It was called Gallimimus?
The Gallimimus.
Okay, so this is like a two-part. So you know how they do on the television shows
All
when
sequels,
they finish it up the next day? So we'll say, previously on the Gallimimus.
Now
Here's
you'll
Larry
recall.
Brown. Okay.
You recall that I had accidentally hatched out what I thought was a snapping turtle egg, but that snapping turtle had had this encounter with a rooster, and what turned out was in that egg a dinosaur. And we determined it was a Gallimimus, a dinosaur that looked like a rooster. And I had tried to raise it, and of course it grew too fast and too angry, and I had to get rid of it, and before I could, it escaped. Now, where we last heard that story, I thought a bobcat had taken the Gallimimus into the woods and destroyed it. That's what I thought. A few weeks later, I began to hear reports from some of the neighbors around where I live. They were seeing something strange out in the back 40. Some said it was an ostrich, some said it was a kangaroo, but people were reporting small livestock missing too, and I knew what had happened. It wasn't that the bobcat had gotten the Gallimimus had gotten the bobcat. Well, I knew what I had to do. I had to track it down. Well, as I heard the reports, and being a good geographer, I got a map out and began to plot where all of these sightings and encounters were, and they all seemed to circle around Rutherford Cave over there on Cedar Creek. I knew what I had to do. I called up my good friend Jeff, and he got his old shotgun. I got my rifle, and we headed out, and we got our backpack with food and flashlights and headed out. And sure enough, when we got to the cave, there was something different about that cave. I've been in that cave many times, but something smelled different. And as we entered the cave and shined our lights, sure enough, just inside the twilight zone was a big nest with big eggs. Not only did that Gallimimus get loose, it was now going to hatch out young. We were really in trouble. I read that book, you know, the movies, Jurassic Park. I picked up one of those eggs and I was looking at it, and all of a sudden we heard that the sound of Mama Gallimimus was right there at the mouth of the cave. Well, Jeff and I just sort of turned and ran back into the cave. Now, I'd been in that cave and I knew there was a way out. If you went back to the back, went up level, you'd out a sinkhole and we'd be safe. Well, that's what we did, but by the time we got back to the rear door of that cave, there was another Gallimimus. Then I realized there had been another egg back in that nest originally when I first found the egg, and so we had two Gallimimuses out there, a mama and a papa Gallimimus. Well, we scrambled back down, and as we were headed out trying to figure out what to do, then I remembered I had that egg all the time. We went out to the entrance, and both the Gallimimus now had gathered beside their nest, glaring at us. I held up the egg, and I shined the light on it. They knew, I knew, if they attacked us, I'd drop the egg, and so they let us slip by them. Jeff then stepped on a wet rock, lost his balance, fell down, his gun went off, the shotgun hit the roof of the cave, and the whole cave began to collapse. We just barely got out as we saw the whole cave, chunks of limestone falling and crashing, smashing the eggs, the Gallimimus. Now it really was over. The Gallimimuses were gone, except I still had an egg. And you know, the next morning, it made a pretty good, large omelet.
Very good, Larry. So that's the end of the story of the Gallimimus.
I think.
Never know. They may have survived in that crash. That's a good story.
Now that story, as we talked last time, is out of the genre of tall tales. And there are many, many, many different kinds of stories, ballads and folk tales and ghost stories and holiday stories, as we often do, historic tales. And I just wanted to chat a bit this morning to remind folks that how important storytelling really is.
It is.
I mean, people do research now on how the neural functions, pathways of the brain work, and we know that storytelling is key to teaching and learning. Visualization in one's own imagination is so important. It helps with spatial reasoning. But storytelling does more than that. It connects you to past, to community, connects you to things about your own identity, and it's a communication tool. I mean, you pay attention to commercials, whether on radio or television, and in a few seconds they've captured your imagination. Storytelling is very powerful. I've worked with some senior citizens in past years, and I've noticed how helping them to tell their stories or recreate their stories enhances memory, important functions. I've worked with many different groups where I've found youth and children, well, some have said it's a disease of loss of imagination because so many images are supplied to people, but what storytelling helps you do is use your own innate abilities.
You know, another good way of doing storytelling, and we used to do this on Pepper and Friends on the Kids Corner with Uncle James, shared storytelling.
We even did that once, yes.
Yeah, shared storytelling, and this is something that's fun to do with friends or relatives you get together. You get 4 or 5 people together, and you start a story, just make something up, and you stop mid-sentence, the next person next to you has to pick that story up and continue and go on and go on and go on. And you never know where it starts one place and it ends 1,000,000 miles away.
I wanted to share with you that the National Storytelling Network is moving their national headquarters to Kansas City. They're in the process of this year. And we're going to be having a number of events around Missouri because that new facility is there. And their theme is We Grow Storytellers, and reminding us that educators, librarians, clergy, business trainers, parents, there are many different applications of storytelling. And I think we'll be seeing in the next years, I think some new energy happening right here in our own neck of the woods with storytelling.
And I'm going to plug you real quick because we're almost out of time, but you're going to be telling stories Saturday,
This
right?
Saturday, yes. Yeah. Saturday I'll be at Walk Back in Time in Mexico. And I'll be later in October at Lourdes School for their readathon. And I'll be
Our Lady of Lourdes?
Yes, here in Columbia.
Okay.
Yes. And I'll be at Fayette at the Howard County Library October 30 for, I think, my 9th annual ghost telling.
All right, Larry. Thank you so much. Larry Brown, singer, storyteller, songwriter. How do they get in touch with you?
brownstory@hotmail.com.
Okay, brownstory@hotmail.com. You can get his CDs and DVDs there too. Tomorrow, Walk Back. Oh, we're going to talk about Walk Back in Time. We've got Pablo on tomorrow.
Will be here.
And Operation Bugle Boy. Our program directed by Travis McMillan, Reynolds Journalism of Institute Audio, Kyle Fellings, KBIA. Our floor director, Lowell Thomas, and our assistant producer and guest coordinator, Uncle James Mauser.